Now available on Lulu. John Haynes at Death's Door. The man who rules the world takes on the Greek god of death in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes comic book. Get your copy of the first John Haynes comic at lulu.com today. I was watching a Comics Matter Your Boy Zack video where he said that readers can't form a connection with comic book characters that they only see once a year. Now, in this video, Comics Matter Your Boy Zack says that many independent comic publishers really can't form a relationship with their audiences with characters that they're only published once a year in crowdfunding projects. Now, Zack wants to claim that since these characters aren't published over a course of 6 months, readers can't form a relationship with those characters, but as a publisher who has over a decade and a half in the business of independent publishing, I'm going to have to disagree with Zack on this one. And the reason why I'm going to have to disagree with Zack on this one is because I know from experience as a publisher, it's possible to form relationships with a character and want to come back and read more stories with that character in it if the stories are solid. Now, as someone who comes from independent trade publishing, I know it's possible for a writer to form a relationship with readers over a long extended period of time because I've seen authors like J.K. Rowling do this with the Harry Potter books, and those Harry Potter books oftentimes have long gaps between each book's publication. So I know that it's possible to form that relationship with readers as related to a character and have them anticipating picking up the next book because I've seen this done from my own personal experience building the SJS Direct universe. Now, the first SJS Direct universe book that came out was in 2011 with The Temptation of John Haynes, and it was a very long time before I could go out here and work on another SJS Direct universe book. Now, back in 2011, I created The Temptation of John Haynes, and back then I was doing this with just hand-drawn covers I was doing myself, but that book managed to get a lot of critical acclaim and also managed to start building a following online, especially when I put it and published it on platforms like Smashwords and had a lot of people getting into the ebook version. So I know it's possible for a character to resonate with viewers and readers and have them anticipating getting that next book and waiting to get that next book. Now, the John Haynes character and the SJS Direct universe really did not come back to being published until about 2012 when I was working on the ISIS series, and this was after a 10-year absence of the ISIS character. I hadn't published that character in 2002, but I decided to bring the ISIS character into the SJS Direct universe because her sister Esteem was a part of The Temptation of John Haynes, and I decided to bring the ISIS character into the SJS Direct universe with a story called Amari's Revenge, based on some concepts I had for a proposed Wonder Woman run. So I brought the ISIS character back in 2012, and after being in the 2002 published in the first ISIS, and people picked up on that book. So I know for a fact from my own experience that people will go out here and these characters will resonate with people even if they aren't published on a regular schedule. Now, with ISIS, I had started working on what I had promised to be an ISIS series from way back in 2002, and I hadn't been able to write that book until 2012, Amari's Revenge, and I used that to start being the next building block in the SJS Direct universe, and used that to start laying the foundation for the next book, which was the Esteem series, and then use that to go out here and use that to try to transition to bring John Haynes back to the SJS Direct universe at the forefront. So I had been these books had only been coming out every couple of months, and they weren't really coming out that. They were coming out quarterly until I just could not maintain the high level of quality I wanted. And then I switched to a once a year schedule in about 2014. And in 2014, that's when I did Isis Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, which reintroduced readers to John Haynes and brought Isis into a story that started in the beauty myth. And that book started to, again, continue building the momentum of building the platform of the SJS Direct universe. And since then, I have been working on a yearly schedule on Isis and Esteem and John Haynes books, and I've had no problem with people forming connections with any of these characters, and people have been going out here forming connections with all of these characters, and they tell me this on social media like Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. They will go out here and send me messages telling me how much they enjoyed the stories, and in some cases they will be, when I go out here and put up ads for the next SJS Direct book, there will be a lot of anticipation for that book, and people will be putting in pre-orders on platforms like Amazon's Kindle, Smashwords, and Google Play for the digital versions, and people will come back for the paperback versions. And the whole thing that makes a reader want to form a relationship with a character isn't the frequency of publication. No, what makes readers want to form relationships with a character is the storytelling, and if the storytelling is solid and consistent, readers will go out here on the regular and look to buy the books featuring those characters. If you go out here and write quality stories that are very well done, you will have no problem building an audience and a fan base for a character. And I know this from experience after having periods of long gaps between characters, like the 4 or 5 year gap that John Haynes had from The Temptation of John Haynes to Isis Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, to the gap that he had between Wrath of the Cyber Goddess, Night of the Vampires, and Bride of Dracula. I mean, these books were published yearly, and John Haynes continued to build an audience with readers. And as I did the sequel to The Temptation of John Haynes, The Man Who Rules the World, in 2016, John Haynes' character started to become more popular as I was doing these Isis and Esteem books featuring him. And as I did those books and launched 2018's John Haynes series with John Haynes, A Conversation with Death, this is where the character really started to get popular with readers. So I know it's possible to go out here and build an audience with readers as that related to them forming a connection with a character, and people form connections with characters because they identify with the struggles that that character has as related to them. So I know it's possible, and you don't need to be publishing every 6 months or every month to get readers into a character. No, if the character is somebody who people can relate to and identify with and see themselves as, they will get into that character stories, and they will start buying that character stories on the regular. I have seen this with readers every time I launch a new Isis, Esteem, or John Haynes series book. I have seen people go on Amazon.com and after buying the most recent Isis, Esteem, or John Haynes series book, go back and pick up back books, or in some cases I have seen people pick up the entire run of books because they fall in love with the character, and because they really start to connect with these characters, they want to read all the stories that the characters are featured in, and they do this because they see a character that they're passionate about. So it's not about how frequent you publish the character, it's all about the quality of the storytelling, and that's the thing that I try to bring to most of my Isis, Esteem, and John Haynes series books, and also what I want to bring to many of what I want to do as related to SJS Direct comic books. Now, I've only done 2 comics. I've done Esteem No Good Deed with Bill Walko and John Haynes at Death's Door with Antonio Balderi. And it's been a major challenge to try to get a comic out, because this is something I wanted to do since 2018. Unfortunately, one of the hardest things that is related to trying to get new indie comics out is raising the funds to get those comics put together, because you have to pay an artist just after you do the script, and artists, they have to be paid immediately in order to make sure that the project can flow organically. So it takes time to go out here and get the money together. So this is the reason why you only see many comics only coming out once a year. Yes, the Kickstarters and Indiegogos may get funded, but the real problem is getting the funding to go out here and pay an artist to get the next project out there. That's what I've run into after doing the 2022 Kickstarter for John Haynes at Death's Door. I mean, I've saved a lot of the PayPals and the Cash App donations I've received, but I'm still trying to save up enough to get the full project funded before I can even do the Kickstarter for the project. So you have to be able to pay people before you can go out here and do the Kickstarter, because artists, they don't work for free. So that's one of the reasons why you see a lot of comics only coming out once a year. Moreover, once you get the funding, you have to work out the logistics as related to your script, and you also have to give an artist time in order to get that book put together. I know from my own experience with Bill Walko and Antonio Balderi that it takes time for an artist to go out here and put together all of the sequences, and these pages take months and maybe even a year to put together if you want something of quality. So a lot of indie publishers, they only have 1 year to get a project out, and this is the only time they have to do it, and they only have one shot at making a first impression. So that one book is usually the best work they can do. So while we would love to go out here and put together books every 6 months, like many people expect, like Zack thinks that you need to form a connection, many independent publishers like myself, all we get is one shot, and oftentimes, if due to budget constraints, oftentimes we can possibly only do one comic at a time. Again, I have scripts ready for Isis, the Beauty Myth, and Isis, All That Glitters, that are on my hard drive, and I'm looking to do a Bride of Dracula script, but the whole thing that holds me back is getting the money together to do the next comic. I mean, I've gotten a lot of critical praise for John Haynes at Death's Door, a book that came out in 2022, but what holds back again many indie creators is financing, and the other thing that holds them back is time, because artists, again, these books take a lot of time to put together, and a lot of artists, again, this is a lot of work. I mean, I look at Antonio Balderi and the detail he put into it, Death's Door, and again, this book took him about 6 to 8 months or 9 months to put together, and I appreciated everything that he did. I mean, the level of quality was absolutely fantastic, but I understand as a publisher, my focus needs to be on making the books the best quality, because yes, they may come out once a year, but they will resonate with readers for years if the characters are well done. And this is what I found from my experience. I mean, I have a lot of people who have become my friends on Facebook and become my friends on other social media like YouTube and Instagram. And I've even met people on the street as related to John Haynes and Isis and Esteem. I mean, people, when they see the stories that I put together, again, they have formed relationships with me. And again, the connection that the characters form is very important. But what I've found from my business experience is that the connections that the readers form with a creator is even more important, because once they get to know a person who creates these characters and gets to know them, this is the connection that is the most important, because if people form relationships with you, then they want to anticipate buying your project because they're getting to know a person behind that project. This is something I learned when I used to go shopping at Brooks Brothers with many of the salespeople there. When I used to go to 346 Madison Avenue, I mean, there was a West Indian lady there that my sister and I had a great relationship with when the women's section. And the whole thing is that when it comes to sales, you really want to form relationships with the customers, and that is how you go out here and sell the product, because you're not just selling a product, you're selling yourself, and you're selling yourself to people, letting them get to know you. And again, this is the connection that is the most important. And readers form connections with authors and creators. This is one of the reasons why I went out here and started building my channel after writing blogs from 2009 to 2012. I mean, I had written a very popular blog to the point where it had over 3 million hits. And I said that I've gone as far as I can with blogging, because there were people who even recognized me from comic book resources people used to post links to my blogs. They were that popular. And I decided to take things to another level. And this is one of the reasons why I started the YouTube channel and started building on it after making it in 2009. I decided to start building on it in 2012 or 2013. And I started going out here and making videos talking to people, because I wanted people to get to know me, and I wanted them to get to know the mission of the SJS Direct imprint. And it's that relationship that has led to a lot of people forming connections with me and buying my work on the regular. And again, if you want to go out here and sell a comic, you got to let people get to know you. Let them get to know your passion for your project. Let them get to know how much you care. That's one of the reasons why I like a lot of creators like Raymond Leonard and his Agent Solo series. Just an absolute fantastic guy. You should sub to his Diverse Comics channel. And guys like Mad Black 80 and Chris Crazy House, again, guys with passion for comics. I mean, a love for comics is going to show, and that's what's really going to sell you to readers. Again, I've been doing this for years, and I've even done it with other characters like the Matilda Crowley character, which I wrote in YA. I mean, I did that book Spellbound, which features a black goth, and a lot of people in the black goth subculture went out here and picked up the first book, Spinsterella, picked up Spellbound and Legendary Mad Matilda, and that really again shows me you can form a connection with readers with books published once a year, because Spinsterella was published in 2015, Spellbound was published in 2016, and Legendary Mad Matilda was published in 2017. So if you've got good characters are going to resonate with people. Good characters are going to have people anticipating picking up the next book, and good characters with great writers with great passion that connect with people, they are going to be out here able to build a base with readers. And that's what I want to do when I'm out here and I'm out here making videos. I go out here and I look to make that connection with readers. And even though the books come out once a year due to my budgetary constraints, I still go out here and look to form that relationship and let people get to know me and get to know the kind of stories I tell, because I know it's possible to go out here and form connection with readers with books that only come out once a year, because I've seen it done with books that have long gaps, like with the Harry Potter series. I mean, J.K. Rowling formed relationships with readers, and these books maybe came out once every 2 to 3 years. So it's possible to form that connection with readers if you write great characters. And I've seen this done with characters I've written, such as John Haynes, such as Isis, such as Esteem and Matilda Crowley, and even a character I did called Colleen Anderson, which was a part of the novel The Thetis, and Lilith Graves with Eternal Night. If you write great characters, you'll have no problem with readers forming connections with those characters, and you'll have no problems doing this with books that are only published once a year, because if trade paperback authors like myself can do it with books once a year, and even with longer gaps, then it's possible for a comic book reader to go out here and form a connection with a character that is only published once a year. So all those guys out here crowdfunding, I know that sometimes, yeah, there are extended gaps, but if your story's really great, you're going to have no problem forming connections with a character that only comes out once a year. Now, the 2023 SJS Direct catalog features 2 John Haynes books, John Haynes Godbreaker and John Haynes 1987, and the 2022 SJS Direct catalog books, John Haynes, I think it's Taking Care of Business, and Isis Legacy and the Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman. All of these books basically came out, and you can find all of these books in paperback and Kindle format on Amazon.com, and you can also find them at other digital booksellers like Smashwords, the iBookstore, Google Play, and Barnes & Noble. And the first full John Haynes comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, is currently available in paperback at Lulu.com right now. And you can get this book that was part of a successful 2022 Kickstarter in paperback at Lulu.com. And you can also get my first full comic with Bill Walker, Esteem No Good Deed, on Kindle for 99 cents. And if you want to help me be able to put together the next full SJS Direct comic, you can send a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door must take on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and e-readers, E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a wicked werewolf in this action-packed, all-new E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Horror of the Hyena Woman in paperback and e-readers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.